Hey guys, Dan here with this week's movie reviews. It's been a couple weeks actually since I've done a full slate of movies in a given week. Last week we did The Kissing Booth 1 and 2, and I've been talking for a couple weeks about, okay, we're going to get to some Netflix movies, and so there are 4 Netflix movies we're going to talk about this week. There were actually more than that I had to select from, but I went with 4 that have recently been in the Netflix top 10. So we're going to tackle those. But before I get to those, want to let you know to please go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I'm nearing 500 subscribers, which is very exciting. Also, if you want to like this video as well, if you do like it, then hit the like button down below too. That would really help me out. And of course, comment. I love hearing from you guys all the time, whether it's about the movies themselves or my reviews or whatever, you disagree, you agree, whatever. I love hearing from you in the comments, so please do that too. So we have 4 movies we're going to get to. We're going to start with one that has been number 1 since it premiered on Netflix 1 week ago, and that is Project Power. This is a much talked about movie, has some big name star power in it, with Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt sort of heading up the cast, and essentially it takes place in a slightly distant future, New Orleans, and there is this pill that is flooding the drug market, and it basically, when you take it, gives you superpowers for 5 minutes. What those superpowers are going to vary from person to person, and so at first when you take it you could just die immediately, or it could give you something really, really cool. So the story essentially follows a drug dealer, the police officer, who is Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and a former soldier, played by Jamie Foxx, who are sort of teaming up to take down the people who are distributing this, because of various reasons. Each one kind of has their own reasons. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character takes the pill to aid with his job. It basically makes him bulletproof for the 5 minutes. He even sets his watch when he eats the pill. And then Jamie Foxx, well, he's got some really interesting, like, superheat kind of power that he can direct to whomever he wants to. And then Dominique Fishback is the gal who plays the drug dealer, and she, is an aspiring rapper, and everybody sort of has their own reasons for taking down the big guns. Dominique's character, Robin, actually is sort of, kidnapped, but, we don't do spoilers on this channel, so that's really all I'll say kind of about the plot. But, this movie has a lot of interesting angles to it. I think just the idea of being able to take this pill for 5 minutes, it gives you a superpower, and you don't even know what exactly it's going to be. I think is incredibly interesting, and there's a couple of like real interesting like dynamics like that about this movie. But unfortunately, the movie doesn't quite know what to do with that. It sort of, has an edgy sort of overcoating, and the themes are, I think, kind of cool, and not something we've seen before, but the execution sort of falls into that very, very generic territory. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, by the way, is great in this. We had not seen him for a few years, and then earlier this year he was in the Amazon movie 7500, which I reviewed kind of favorably on this show. I think it was in the B range. But I've always liked him, and right away in that first scene, it really sets up the entire world that we're going to be in for the next nearly 2 hours. It sets up his character, it sets up the drug dealer's character, and it sets up exactly what this pill can do and what it may do, because he basically kind of busts her. Well, I mean, they're working together, but, she takes him to one of her drug busts, or drug deals, so he kind of busts it up. But as he's busting it up, he says to the guys who are trying to buy from her, like, oh, you don't know what this pill's going to do, X, Y, and Z. So right away we establish exactly what these pills can do or might do. And so, it's a really great opening scene. And then from there, it has drips and drabs of really interesting things going on, and then it sort of more often than not, I would say veers into the more generic territory. Jamie Foxx here is also very good. Actually, all three leads are pretty solid. I'm not familiar with the gal who plays Robin, Dominique Fishback. Let's see if she's done anything I've seen. She plays Darlene on The Deuce. I've heard of that show. Oh, she was in The Hate U Give. Oh, I love The Hate U Give. She wasn't the star of it, though. That was Amanda Stenberg. She's not even listed in the first 6. All right, so maybe she was like one of the friends or something. So, all right, I mean, I've seen her in a couple of things, I suppose, but, nothing real major, I would say, until this. But she's very good as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe she was an aspiring rapper in real life, too, because she does, drop some rhymes here. The finale of this is, I think, fairly satisfying, and it does leave things open-ended enough that if they were to make a Project Power 2, you could see maybe where they're going with it. But there's a lot of stuff in like the hour and 10, 20 minutes between the opening couple of scenes and the finale that just left me unsatisfied. But I do have to say the acting elevates it a bit, and I think the concept elevates it a little bit too from something more generic. So overall, I think it's a good watch, but it could have been a great watch, I feel like, with maybe different people at the helm. This was directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman. And, Joost did a movie that was sort of similar to this in tone called Nerve, which for some reason I was just talking about the other day. But that's Dave Franco. Oh, maybe I was talking about it because I had Dave Franco's movie a couple weeks ago. But it was him and Emma Roberts, and it has a very similar tone and also a unique story structure, or not story structure, but unique like plot. And then yet again, it sort of just veers into the okay territory rather than, well, this could have been really great. I think I gave Nerve like a C or a C+. It was definitely a little bit on the fence. This one I'm a little higher on, so I leave Project Power with a B-. Up next, we're going to talk about The Lost Husband, and this is interesting because it's not specifically a Netflix original movie. This actually came out in April to on-demand services, and I assume was probably going to be released theatrically before COVID-19 hit. But it had a very quick turnaround and is already available on Netflix, and I had not heard of it before it showed up in Netflix's top 10. I'm sure a lot of other people didn't either. So, I mean, it's not really a Netflix original movie, but for all intents and purposes, I'm throwing it on the Netflix movie review show because I don't think people have really heard of this otherwise. But it stars Leslie Bibb and Josh Duhamel, and basically she is, her husband has died, so she's sort of lost and not knowing what to do. This is Libby is the name of the character. So her and her children move into her aunt's place. Her aunt is played by Saturday Night Live veteran Nora Dunn, and they live on a nice goat farm in Central Texas, which is not what Libby and her kids are used to at all. They're used to a higher quality of life, but of course, as you might imagine, we find some things out about her now deceased husband as the movie goes along. But good old farmhand Josh Duhamel to the rescue. Here he plays James O'Connor. Even the name is rather generic. And of course they start out as sort of fighting with each other, but turns into a romance before too long. And he even before the romance blossoms, he sort of takes a shining to her kids and is trying to help the one girl learn to fight because she has a limp and she gets bullied at school and this and that. So that's the general plot here. Basically, this is your typical feel-good, Lifetime original type movie. I don't think there's really much that elevates it at all from that status. In fact, Leslie Bibb, look, I've seen her pop up in certain things. I watched the TV show About a Boy, and she was on about half a dozen episodes of that. She's most known, I guess, from the WB show Popular, which I never watched. And I think there's another cast member of Popular in this movie, so it's a mini reunion, I guess, maybe. But her acting is terrible in this. It's as if she is going for a Lifetime original movie feel, and even then not quite hitting that mark. Like it's very just telegraphed, like it's bad. Josh Duhamel, I think, actually is really good in this. I think he is a likable dude. I used to get him confused with Timothy Olyphant quite a bit, but now that I've seen Timothy Olyphant in a bunch of other things, I don't make that confusion anymore. But about like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I really got those two confused a lot. But I like Josh Duhamel, I do, and I think, see, now I'm getting confused again. I think he's the one that was the dad in Love, Simon. Was it him or was it Timothy Olyphant? I think it was him, and I love that movie, Love, Simon, but I don't know. They're still kind of interchangeable to me. Yes, okay, so he plays the dad in Love, Simon, which he is great in that. But I've always liked him, ever since I first saw him on TV, I guess, years and years ago. But so he's good in this, but he's almost the only one. Like, everybody else, and his accent's not that great, but the acting part's fine. But there's, like, Nora Dunn's, like, southern accent is so laid on, which is funny because she used to do accents on SNL. But, I mean, look, that was 35 years ago, so obviously maybe things have changed for her, and if she's not, flexing that muscle often, she loses it. But her southern accent is, I thought, very forced. There's a couple other characters that just have very forced accents. There's not much here that isn't things we've seen in literally all of the the Nicholas Sparks movies and the Lifetime movies and all of that. So other than a couple of good performances, like her daughter is decent. I wouldn't say great. I'm not even sure if I would say very good. I would say it's serviceable acting. But this was not for me at all. And look, there's some romantic dramas I can get behind. I will admit I'm probably pickier or more picky on a romantic drama than I am with many other types of movies. Like I'm a little easier maybe on kids movies. I'm a little easier on action movies sometimes because I feel like they're always kind of check your brain at the door. I mean, this is sort of, if it makes you feel good and you believe the romance, then it can succeed. But the script here is very weak. The romance is okay, but because of the bad performance by Leslie Bibb, I didn't really get the chemistry there either. Maybe if she could match Duhamel in that, I might feel differently. But this was really not a good movie. I'm going to leave The Lost Husband with a D. It tries to have like a little bit of a surprise twist in the middle, and it's like, if you've seen one of these movies, you've seen 10 of them, so that didn't work out either. But alright, up next we have another movie that sort of very oddly made its way to Netflix. It's called Animal Crackers, and it is an animated children's movie, and I saw this pop up in the top 10 a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, what is this Animal Crackers? First of all, the animation style is not your typical, it's from the same people that did like the Hoodwinked movies and that kind of thing. So it's definitely got a different look to it than a lot of the Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney. In fact, who did it? Blue Dream Studios was the production company, and I don't even know what other movies they've done, but I know Hoodwinked was on that list that I read. Because when I was watching it, I saw a list of different movies. Most of them I had not really even heard of, to be completely honest. But anyway, so there's a great voice cast in this, in terms of, like, not A-listers, but talent that we all kind of know and love. Like John Krasinski and his wife Emily Blunt, Sir Ian McKellen, Danny DeVito, Sylvester Stallone, Raven-Symoné, Wallace Shawn, Gilbert Gottfried. So, a whole host of names. But the interesting journey this movie took, so it's actually from 2017. And it took 3 years to make it here to the U.S. So it is, unlike Lost Husband that didn't premiere on Netflix, but I'm still considering a Netflix movie. This did premiere on Netflix, but it took years to get there. It was released in a couple other countries back in 2017, 2018, but it took that long to get here due to a variety of reasons, including, you know, a lot of monetary issues, I guess, on the producers' end, that, you know, they were having struggles with it or whatever. So it actually got made for $17 million, and even with overseas theatrical releases, did not even recoup half of that. So it's an interesting movie. But the plot goes like this. Essentially, John Krasinski plays the they play the parents. Him and Emily Blunt play the parents, and they are young circus folk. They're not in the circus, but they love going to the circus. That's how they meet. We see that in a flashback, and now they're grown. They're raising a daughter of their own who is, you know, preschool age. She's probably about 5 or 6, and so they discover a box of animal. Well, they are left a box of animal crackers, I should say, in a will. I think it was for their grandfather, and they're like, well, these look really stale, like, you know, you can't have any of these, daughter. But John Krasinski eats one and turns into the animal that he is, or that he's eating. So they make their way over to the circus to find Uncle Danny DeVito, and they're like, oh my god, like, what is going on here? Like, tell us about these animal crackers. Why am I this animal? And so he explains that basically it's a magic box, and when you eat a cracker, you turn into that animal, and it gets replaced with a cracker that looks like you. And so when you eat the person cracker, you go back to being yourself. So unlike Project Power, where it's only 5 minutes of power, this is unlimited until you eat the cracker. And if you eat a different animal instead of the person cracker, you turn into that animal. So interesting in concept, maybe. But anyway, they have to stop their evil uncle, which is the other guy, Horatio P. Huntington. And he is he's played by our good friend Sir Ian McKellen. And he's basically Danny DeVito's brother, the other uncle, and it goes from there. I'm not going to tell you anything else. But so the animation is in that odd style, sort of like Hoodwinked, like I said, which, you know, it's not as ugly as some animation styles, I think, but it also is rough around the edges. And, you know, kids, I don't think really care that much. I mean, obviously, you know, when they see beautiful landscapes in Pixar movies or whatever, it's a little different for them. But, you know, look, most of the shows on Nickelodeon or the cartoons on Disney Channel don't really have sophisticated artwork. So I don't think kids necessarily care as much as I do about the animation style. So it's you know, they've got these like pointy faces and stuff like that. But the voice work is interesting. I mean, Emily Blunt, I'm telling you, if you told me it was Emily Blunt, I'd be like, okay, I still am not hearing it. like John Krasinski, you could tell him. Gilbert Gottfried, obviously. Danny DeVito, obviously. And by the way, what is the Danny DeVito obsession with circus movies? You know, Dumbo, Big Fish, Batman Returns, you know, all of those are Tim Burton movies. So I thought maybe just him and Burton had a thing with circuses. But here we have another Danny DeVito circus movie. And I love Danny DeVito, so I'm not slacking on him at all. I just think it's interesting. I don't know if there's some sort of love for the circus he has, and so he really enjoys playing those types of roles. And they're mostly ringleader roles. They're mostly, the head of the circus. So I think this movie, though, was more enjoyable than I was expecting. Just based on the animation look, I was like, I don't know how excited I am about this movie. But Emily Blunt, you know, does a great job. And she's done American accents before. So I've heard her do American, but I still, even knowing it was her, I was still listening and I'm like, God, that doesn't sound anything like Emily Blunt. I love her so much. She is really a chameleon. Pretty much everybody else in this movie is just who they are. Ian McKellen, you know, a little bit of a different affectation, but most of the others are like, okay, well, that's definitely this person, that's this person. Which is whatever. I mean, kids don't care either way. They don't know who Sylvester Stallone is, you know. They might know Gilbert Gottfried if they've seen the original Aladdin, I suppose. But anyhow, I think it's a fun plot. It's much like Project Power. It is something a little bit innovative, a little bit new that we haven't seen before in its theory. And here, I would say the execution is maybe a little bit better than Project Power. I think kids will find this movie enjoyable, especially right now with COVID. I know movie theaters are starting to open up, but the next kids movie, now that Mulan has been shelved from theaters, I don't even know what the next kids movie would be. Probably something in October or November. I feel like there's a Disney movie coming in November that might be big. I can't remember what it would be, but anyway, these first few weeks, at least, there's nothing for kids. So parents have to sort of find something new for them to watch, and I think you could do way worse than this movie. I think the messages are a little bit tried and true, about family and about being true to yourself and da-da-da-da-da. There was nothing new there that the kids couldn't get from 800 other things. But I do think this movie was rather entertaining. I don't think it was nearly as funny as it thought it was. John Krasinski was, and it was the script, not necessarily his delivery, but, they were trying to punch his character up a little bit and make him sort of try to be funny, and I didn't find it to be that case. I laughed a few times, but more at the scenarios that were presenting themselves rather than anybody's specific lines, I guess. Although Danny DeVito actually did make me laugh a couple times, which makes sense. But overall, I actually kind of enjoyed this movie. I was surprised by it, so I leave Animal Crackers with a B-. So up next we have Work It. This will be our final movie that we're going to talk about. And this is a comedy on Netflix. It was a Netflix original premiere, and it stars Sabrina Carpenter, who I know as a singer. I know a lot of her, recent pop hits, Almost Love and some of that. But I know she's done stuff for Disney. What was her big Disney thing? Let me look here. Sophia the First. She was Princess Vivian, but that's a voice role, so I wouldn't recognize her from that anyway. Oh, Girl Meets World. Okay, so she played Maya Hart on Girl Meets World. Is that the kid? That's Topanga and Corey's kid? No, because their last name's Matthew. So, all right, well, whatever. So she plays Maya Hart on Girl Meets World. So she's got, a little bit of a Disney Channel kind of vibe. But I know her, again, from the singing. But she plays Quinn Ackerman here. And she is a really pushed student. Her mom really, really wants her to succeed. And she's having a little bit of trouble in the admissions process because she doesn't really have a lot of extracurricular. She's very smart, but she had some work on this dance team at her school, but she was not on the dance squad. She was, stage crew. She was behind the scenes. But she lies in an interview to get into, is it Duke? Yeah. And when she says she was part of the dance team, the woman was like, oh my God, like, that's amazing. Like, you gotta really get to it here. And so she ends up having to basically put together a squad from scratch of her old buddies. And, of course, some of the people from the old dance squad do not want to do that. And in fact, she sort of ruined their last performance. So there's some bad blood there. So it kind of goes from there. And again, this is pretty beat by beat, I think, for a lot of these dance movies. I shouldn't even say I'm not a huge fan. I just haven't really seen a lot of, like, the Step Up movies and, Save the Last Dance. And I saw one of the recent Step Up movies. I think it was Step Up 4 or something. And I saw the one with Chris Brown. Is that Best of the Year or something? Battle of the Year, I think it was called. So, I saw that. I've seen a few of them. And I feel like they're all largely the same. But, this one actually was rather enjoyable. Kind of like Animal Crackers, I was expecting it to be pretty blah. And, I found myself interested in these characters, and it's a brisk runtime. It's 93 minutes. And some of the other people in this show I've recognized. Liza Koshy, who I guess is like a big YouTuber. or TikTok or something. But I've seen her like pop up on different shows or whatever. Jordan Fisher is in it as well, and he did like the Teen Beach movies and that kind of thing. Michelle Buteau is in this as well. She's done a couple of things, in this vein, of like the sort of romantic comedy type. Not that this is romance heavy, but she was in Always Be My Maybe, and she does a voice on Bless the Hearts, and so these people are like kind of known a little bit, but certainly up and comer. Sabrina Carpenter, I would say, is the biggest name here, and again, more for her music, I think, than her acting. But it helps with this because obviously, in her music video, she does a lot of dancing, so this character has to sort of learn to dance. But of course, Sabrina Carpenter already knows. So there's some interesting dance routines here. What I dislike the most, I would say, about the movie is its complete unbelievability. Like, I feel like some of these dance movies are a little more believable in that maybe the dance crew isn't that super right off the bat, or they do a dance routine at the finale that maybe isn't so great, but it was kind of like all the boxes were checked for this character, and like, okay, you need to do this, and this to get into the college, so here you go, and not to give spoilers, but the dance crew she comes up with, I think is a lot better than they should be, let's say. But there's some good dance numbers. There's obviously some great music in this that either they're dancing to or that's just set dressing for scene montages or whatever. And to be honest, for somebody that I didn't know was an actress, I thought Sabrina Carpenter did a pretty good job as the lead. I found her to be pretty believable, I guess. And again, with the unbelievability part, the gal who runs the admissions at Duke, I've seen her pop up in a lot of different shows. She's just, she's just a ridiculous character, She's like, oh, okay, like, whatever, sure, like, you can come to Duke, whatever. So there were a lot of things that weren't believable about this movie, but I did actually find it kind of enjoyable, I have to say. It's got like a feel-good vibe to it. The music is great, like I said. Some of the dance routines are pretty interesting. It actually reminded me a lot of Pitch Perfect. Like, obviously that's, vocal, a cappella kind of stuff. This is dancing. But it's made in the very same way. Like, it's got the same feel, the same sort of archetype characters, which, look, I'm sure goes from dance movie to dance movie. Again, I haven't seen a ton of them. But, and maybe Pitch Perfect was playing off that to begin with. I don't know. But there's nobody really like Pitch Perfect that just pops out of your screen from this, like Rebel Wilson did, or Anna Kendrick, obviously. Everybody's kind of just likable, even the bad guys, supposedly, you're kind of like, all right, well, she did sort of ruin their final performance when she was working their stage crew, so I could see why there's some bad blood there, So for me, there wasn't like enough tension, but I enjoyed this movie more than I thought I would. It certainly gets a slightly above average grade for me. I'll leave work it with a C+. Maybe too generic, but I think enjoyable for what it is. So that's going to do it. Pretty quick. I try to keep these movie review ones under about a half hour, and we have hit it. So coming up, I have a ton of other videos that are already in the can. We've got a Dan Does Disney coming up with Tim this coming week for the 1953 film The Sword and the Rose. I'm going to do another TV review. Obviously, I do those every week, so that'll be probably coming up Monday. There's a new Food Fanatics. And we had a listener, or, well, viewer request, I should say. Listener was when I used to work on the radio, but we had a viewer request for the movie Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And it was, sort of random, but I thought about it, and I'm like, wait, I think this might be the anniversary year for that movie. And not only that, it's the anniversary month that came out in August of 1985. So this is the 35th anniversary month of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So I'm actually going to review Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Big Top Pee-wee, the other 80s Pee Wee Herman movie, with my buddy Joe, and we're going to sort of make that our Friday video this week instead of Freaks and Geeks. We'll put that on pause for a week. So look forward to that if you're a Pee-wee fan, as I am, and that should be very interesting. But yes, like I said at the top, subscribe, like, comment, all that great stuff, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.